It's great.
Hey, Greg. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. You
I'm,
are just like, oh, sorry, I'm talking and I'm not even letting you talk.
it's okay. No, I'm so glad to be here. Go
You
ahead.
are like a ray of sunshine, and I've enjoyed getting to know you so much. And I just want to bring you on because one thing that you make me think of and you're really good at is the power of play.
Oh,
So that's
yeah.
one thing where we can start with. But first, before we get into everything, but
Sure.
wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do? Because you can tell us in the best way possible.
Oh,
And I love to hear from you.
yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I sleep for about 6 hours a day. That's probably not what you're asking for now. That's maybe the average. I am a napper. No, let's get serious now. What do I do? I am, it's an interesting question, but I would say I'm a professional cheerleader, but not the kind you see at football games. And that is really where I found myself sitting, but you can't necessarily tell that to everyone. So if you want a better title or something that you can share at, I don't know, like high level parties or at least mid level, you can call me a happiness coach,
Happiness
or a
coach.
happiness mentor or something like that. I mean that, and I do lots of things in that realm. So I coach people. My favorite thing though, I mean my favorite thing, and what I'm probably going to be, I don't know, oddly known for in the next coming years is I started doing wake up calls with people. And this was just, people I knew. And then it was I turned it to a business and it went so well. I thought, why don't we do this for lots of people? So I do morning wake up calls for people. That's the short of it, I guess.
And
I
what are
help
you
people
doing?
wake up. What's that?
Yeah, what are you doing in these morning wake up calls? I'm
Oh
sure you're not
yeah.
calling them and be like, hey, I think it's time for you to get out of
What in the
bed,
world is it? Well,
and
thing is, like, well, the solicited or unsolicited, because the unsolicited where they don't know me, I just call and like tell them a knock knock joke like early in the morning. Just kidding, I don't do that, but that would be hilarious, huh? We should no,
incorporate that.
yeah. Well, it depends, everybody has, you're a lot on relationships, and so everybody has, I love how you talk about relationships with self. That's certainly a
Mhm.
thing, but the other thing is relationships with the lifestyle you created. Like,
Mm.
what's that? How does that look? Because for a lot of people it looks like overwhelm, 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 veg out on Netflix or something like that, right? Veg out on Netflix,
Uh,
go to sleep. Overwhelm. Did you raise your hand? Did you just
oh yeah,
raise
I
your
raised my hand on that
hand?
one.
All right, so it depends, because if somebody's in overwhelm, then you don't have a morning wake up call where you're like, okay, what are we gonna do today? That's great. Okay, there's 5 things. Go do them. La, 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 la. You don't do that because they don't need that yet. What they need is, hey, it's break time. What do we
Mm.
do right now? We don't do anything right now. What would you like to do? What? What would you like to do? Uh, I don't know. I never got to ask myself that question, right? Because I never have the time, because I'm always overwhelmed. So really, it looks so if somebody is overwhelmed, the first thing I start with is I
Mhm.
start with the night routine. Because think about it. What's happening is people wake up, they go through their day, they don't take time for themselves, they don't take time to decompress, they don't make a new plan as to how they're going to function the next day. And so what they do is their time is at the end of the night, which is why a lot of people do veg out on shows, binge on social media, or whatever else they do, go to the bar. I don't know, whatever people
Mhm.
do, that's when they do it at the end of their day, because for them, everything else takes precedence and they get whatever's left over. That's a terrible way to live your life, but this is the way a lot of us do. And
Yeah.
I get it. It's not a judgment call. It's really more about just asking the question, is that working for you? So if somebody is in overwhelm, the first thing I do is I say, how's your night routine? And usually they say, what in the world is a night routine? And another name for it is wind down routine. And that's specifically what it's meant to do. It's meant to prepare you for the next day. It's meant to get you into a space where you say, oh, um, I can let everything go right now. Yeah, you can. Like, even if you own a business, which has endless work, right? You're an
Mhm. Yep.
entrepreneur, you can let that go right now. You're about to go to sleep, 5 minutes, 10 minutes before you go to sleep. If you can't give yourself that, you need professional counseling or something. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
need permission from a best friend. You need a parent or a mentor or somebody to like shake you awake and be like, hey, stop this. Because do you feel like you're living? You probably don't. You probably don't. You probably feel like you're dying every day, which is what's happening. So let's help you live a little. And let's start with the simplest thing, which is at the end of the day, when all of your responsibilities and duties are taken care of, and you can say, well, what do I want? Because for 5 minutes, I get what I want. Or for 10 minutes, I get what I want.
So what do you suggest to somebody in like their wind down routine to do? Like,
Good
probably
question.
what I'm doing is probably not the most healthiest thing, but it is something to help me relax. Like it's me time. It's like I get to just zone out. I get to veg. I watch maybe a show while I'm brushing my teeth. I do my thing. And then I'm like, okay, this is like I don't want to text. I don't want to be on social media. I just want to be focused in on something. But while I'm brushing my teeth and flossing,
Yeah.
don't worry. Don't worry, mom. I'm flossing.
No worries. Yeah. Yeah. My mom would tell me to floss more for sure. I like to take things from the simplest steps, because even those who have it down, they can use. So what I'm about to say is, the first thing I would do is I wouldn't prescribe a particular activity to do, but I would say that the things you already do, what can help you is to make the choice that when you're doing them, you more consciously look at them as your wind down routine. So what it does is you're not adding anything extra as far as the activity other than what happens up here, right, in your head.
Okay.
And in your heart. And so what it does, for example, brushing your teeth is a great example. In fact, I've used that one before. If you brush your teeth to get your teeth clean out of habit, so fine. Like, I could ask you right now, well, what did you think about last night while you were brushing your teeth?
Oh, I had many thoughts, even though I was watching a show.
Oh, you did? Okay. What did you
Which
think
is
about?
probably not what I should be doing. That's why I'm trying to watch the show to get out of my head, right?
You were watching a show and brushing your teeth. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's that. Whatever activity you do, here's the point, is that you classify it to yourself as me time, and you very specifically say, I get to wind down now. I get to let go now. And this is awesome. You don't have to do this very many times for your mind and your whole body to be like, oh, now is a time. And so when you do that with every activity you're already doing, right? I mean, let's imagine you're watching your show, you're brushing your teeth. And I mean, does that kind of hard to floss and watch the show too? Like, does your hand get in the way sometimes? Anyhow, you're doing these things, right? I mean, it's as simple as like you're putting on your pajamas or night clothes or whatever you sleep in.
Yeah.
You're pulling down the covers. Everybody pulls down the blanket, assuming your bed's made. Baby's not made. Okay, great. But everybody gets the space ready where they're going to sleep. Whatever it is you do, turning the light off. As you're doing this, you're thinking, this is me time. Me time. I get to wind down now. I get to let go.
Yeah.
And then, and this is for the ultra overwhelmed, and then you can incorporate different or upgraded activities.
Okay.
For example, avoiding screen time is a great thing to do in that wind down experience, because, well, scientific things, it wakes the brain up and all this stuff. It does. Mostly the reason why to avoid it is because we have largely unknowingly utilized what happens on our phone for a boost, for a high. We don't realize we're addicted to our phones. A lot of people don't, but we want to get away from that if possible. Again, this is not about, definitely don't be on your phone. Like, one of the things I do is I'll open Sudoku,
Okay.
and this is a recent thing, because I do tend to avoid my screen like right before you go to bed. I like a wind down routine that's more of no electronics, right? And that's something I would definitely encourage. But You just pick the things that are going to help you get to that energy. And they're going to change over time. You don't have to push. You don't have to force, right?
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
upgrade. So anyhow, that was a lot about winding down, but it's all true according to
No, I
me.
think it's a great way to just start because it can be overwhelming to start incorporating more self-care things in your life. And if you're just more conscious about it, you're just going through your day more consciously. That's really what it comes down to. Instead of
Absolutely.
just going through the motions, you're just going to become more aware of what you do consciously. So
Absolutely.
I think I like it. It was,
And
hey, I'm going to be more conscious about what I'm doing.
that's great. No, that's good.
Yeah.
As you, so let's say you have that down. The next step would be to look at your morning routine. And when I say you have that down, I'm saying just the mindfulness part.
Yeah.
And you let it upgrade over time. But what you do is you gave yourself some space. It's like a decluttering. So then you should look at your morning, and whenever you have to get up, right, quote unquote, get up a few minutes earlier. Like literally 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then just take that time.
Yeah.
Because that's a great start, right? And then you force the brain to be like, well, what do I want to do? And I highly recommend, if you're going to do this, you choose the activity before the morning comes, and then you have something to anticipate. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't, like, you pick something that you like, and everybody's different, but what brings you joy that you can do in 5 minutes? I mean, do you like, looking at nature? Maybe you stare out your window, or if it's light outside, or maybe you have houseplants and you love your houseplants. Go talk to your houseplants for 2 minutes. I don't know what it is, but you set it first. And honestly, it won't take long if you just pick something like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go downstairs and just draw on my paper for a few minutes. Well, if you like drawing or doodling, great. Pick anything.
Yeah. Just do something for you.
Yeah, but set it first thing in the morning before anything else starts. And if you can't do that yet, it's just a good sign that you need to work on your night routine more first. That's it. It's true.
Start with the night.
That's
like
right.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So this is also a relationship podcast. So I am going to have to, we're talking about relationships with yourself, and that's really where it starts.
Sure.
But I do have to talk about your relationship also.
Sure.
And because
with my wife, like that relationship, or
that one that one that we're
yeah,
gonna mention real quick in here.
Yeah, her name's Debbie. I love her. She's the love of my life. She's my best friend in the whole world.
But there's something unique that you shared with me the other day that is not
okay.
I don't know. I think we're going in the same direction, but let's find out.
Let's see. What was it? Because there's so many unique things.
Yeah. No, but I think it's pretty cool that you said that Debbie is 10 years older than you.
Oh, yeah.
And that is not something that's very common. It's usually maybe the other way around, or whatever it may be. So let's touch base on that a little bit too. And how did you guys meet? I know I usually do it as a couples interview, but I just want to kind of get some.
No worries.
Yeah. On this.
No, this is so good. Wow, where to start? So you want to know how we met? So we went to a religion class, like a nighttime religion class of the people that meet as a group. It's an open invitation, so we both went there, and I looked like someone that she knew, and we're both very religious, very spirit oriented, people, and so for her, she had in her prayers, her answer to her prayers was look to this guy. I don't know if I'll say his name because I don't know. I don't want to make it weird, but let's just say his name's Harvey. Okay, by the way, it's not, but she heard, right? So the answer to her prayers were look at Harvey, right? Harvey, look at Harvey. Okay. And then I looked like her Harvey, and she thought I was him. She's like, wait, what? And then she came and talked to me afterward, and I was not, of course, her Harvey. And at that time, I was going by a nickname that I got in the military, and my last name's Steed, and so they called me Noble. Noble Steed. And so she went home and told her daughters, and one of them said to her, "You're a liar," or "He's a liar, because Noble Steed is not a name, that's a horse." And she's like, "What? Wait, what?" And so she like Googled it, Noble Steed, and she's like, "What?" And so she was like, "What? Oh my gosh." And my wife was working as a private investigator, and so in her head she's like, "I'm gonna go back and tell him I'm a private investigator. I'm gonna find out the truth," right? And so funny, right? But we so actually she ended up talking to a friend of mine who was a friend. So this is kind of sad, but like, I don't know, it's just a weird situation. But I had this friend that was interested in me, but I was like, "Look, I'm just your friend. I know that I'm gonna know the woman when I meet her. It's gonna happen very fast," was what I said to her.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, okay." And she respected that as much as she could, when you like someone.
Yeah.
Well, my wife had the same thing. She had this guy who liked her. It was like and so we're at this. It was so funny when we're talking. We ended up talking for like 2 hours after. And these people that we came with, like, they would kind of like move away from the circle, and we would kind of like inch back closer to them. I feel so bad for them, but there we were. We're meeting our soulmate. Like, you can't stop us. And it wasn't like, we didn't know at the time, but we were just talking, how you do with somebody.
Yeah.
We just so connect. So here's the thing. We technically met this. I don't know if I told you this, but we technically met 13 days, 13 would it be, ish, before we got married.
No, you did not tell me this.
But we tell people it's 6 days. This is hilarious, by the way. We tell people it's 6 days because we had no plan to go back to that religion class the next week, right?
Okay.
We weren't going to go back. We had no plans. This is so funny. And in my mind, it was 6 days because it's kind of like anybody you met anywhere. We didn't exchange numbers. There was nothing other than the fact that she knew I lied about my name or something, right? And so we go back the next week. She ends up talking to my friend and, tells her, and she's like, "Oh yeah, no, that's just a nickname. Like, his name's Greg, all this." And, "Oh, okay, fine." And that's when we had this chat for 2 hours. And what else do you want to know?
Okay, well, let's back up a little bit.
Okay, because
you guys both broke somebody's heart.
Right.
You each had
So sorry. But
yeah.
we were upfront about it.
Like, well, that's good. And it wasn't like you guys were dating that person either.
Yes, they were our friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they knew that you were looking for somebody to date.
Yep.
And you and Debbie found each other. And you guys, so when did you propose? Like, what the heck? I mean, 13 days later, you got married.
Honestly,
Yeah. When was that proposal? Just give me a date and time. Like, was it on day 6? Was it on day 12? And then 13, you're like, okay, we're going to just do this thing.
Okay.
Or was it all on day 13? Proposal and marriage. Right.
So we need to go back to the 6-day time frame. And I was trying to finish that story for you too, right? It's a great question. Like, when did I propose? Like, when did that happen? And the short answer is, it was well, I'll get there in a second, but here's the thing. The other day I was telling the story, and in my mind, like, there were two women there that night that I was like, "Oh, hey, she's interesting. I kind of like her, And so to me, it's 6 days because this other woman, I couldn't even tell you her name or what she looked like. I have no idea, right? Like, I didn't know her from Adam, from anybody. And so in my mind, that first meeting was like this casual, whatever. And then we actually weren't planning. Neither one of us were planning to go again that night that we actually met and talked. She changed her plans at the last minute. I changed my plans at the last minute. We both ended up going. And this story gets great. Honestly, you need a whole other episode to chat with me about this. When
Okay,
you
so
said
maybe we should come back and bring Debbie on and do a whole other episode. with
we
this.
should, because it would be hilarious, and I would love to hear, because we both have different ideas about what happened to you on some things. But
All right. So maybe I went too deep on this question.
no, it's okay. It's okay. We could maybe save that for a minute. Maybe we'll talk about the 10-year difference, I guess. But yeah,
So we'll put that on another podcast. Everybody stay tuned.
yeah, exactly. And I
You
was
just
just
left
gonna
everybody.
say,
I mean, no problem, Greg. Greg, we just
no problem, right?
We
Okay.
just
I
put
mean, I might drop some more info as we're chatting, right? But
okay, that was definitely everybody on the cliffhanger. I'm sorry about this, but I'm
no,
gonna be on
okay.
the cliffhanger with you.
We can't do that to them. But I will say, well, I mentioned that, we're very we're very much about, connecting with God, with the divine, and following, the direction of that higher power, higher than us. And so the decision really was that. It really was that. It was very personal. So wouldn't mind sharing more details. But like I said, you said there was something, that's not normal per se about a most relationship. There are so many things for us that aren't. So, but the short answer is, I that Friday. So this was a Wednesday, and then that Friday, oh my gosh, we were emailing the whole time from that night, back and forth, emailing. Why emailing? Listen, this is crazy, but I didn't have a car. This was Greg was not financially established, is what this was.
Okay.
I was, and no, this plays into it. Honestly, you're gonna love this. This is ridiculous, but I didn't have a car.
Okay.
I didn't have a phone. I didn't have a job. The only thing is I was going to school and I was making money, like getting a little bit, because I was in the military, and the GI Bill was paying for my schooling, and that's all that I had. I had 3 kids. I didn't even have a place for my 3 kids to come and visit me. I didn't have a way to get to them. Life was very, very hard. Now, here's the thing though, in comparing notes with my wife, right after we married, she said, actually, no, I prayed that I would meet a man who really wasn't attached to worldly possessions. So we always joke and be like, it was your fault that I had nothing. Even though it's not entirely true, but it's hilarious. So here we're emailing back and forth. I have no phone, right? I have nothing. In fact, I remember that friend I mentioned that was with me. I said to her the night that I met Debbie, and like the week before I got married, literally, I said to my friend, I said, I don't have a job. I don't have a car. I don't have a phone. I don't have anything. I have no business dating. So in some respects, I didn't date. I just got married, right?
Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say, you have no respect. You can't
Right.
date. Might as well just get married.
Exactly. I know it's crazy, but really for our decision, it did come down to just prayer and just having a good feeling, a peaceful feeling of like, yes, this is going to work. Yes, this is right. And I wrestled. Honestly, I wrestled. So I just had to know. I just had to know. And I know that I'm very aware of the fact that people have different belief systems. And so I really like them to get this, but I don't know if that you can entirely if you don't have some sort of, power that you reach to. But for me, in my own experience, I'd prayed many times in my life, but that night that I wanted to know, because my wife felt like she knew, she's like, this is right. We need to get married. We belong together, all these things. I prayed, and I prayed probably 20, 30 different ways that you could imagine. And I would ask, and every time I would ask, I would get just this feeling. I would get this comfort that I could never manufacture on my own.
Yeah.
And that is the only thing that allowed me to say, I had only been divorced like, I don't know, 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, for her, it had been a couple of years. But yes, sure, I felt good around her. Sure, I liked her. Sure, all the things. Sure. I mean, we really did. Honestly, our first date was at noon on the Friday. So we met on the Wednesday. We emailed all day. This is another crazy thing. On Thursday, here, I could make some phone calls through my computer. So I call her and talk to her. And as we're talking, I'm like, I should ask her to I should ask her for a date tomorrow at noon at lunchtime, right? Because like at my place, since like I don't know how to get to your place, right? I don't have a car, I don't know the bus system, all that. But right less than a minute after I had that thought, she asked me, she's like, hey, why don't we do lunch tomorrow? Why don't we, let's have a date tomorrow at lunchtime, 12 o'clock. The same exact thing I was just thinking. I'm like,
Wow.
what?
That's
I was
really
like,
insane.
what?
Yeah.
So there we are. We're at the trailer. It's 12 o'clock. Knock on my door, and I'm where am I living? Like I'm at this trailer, but I'm renting like one single room out of this trailer. I don't own it. I don't nothing like that. Like I said, I really had nowhere. But my roommates are all gone. But there's Debbie, and she knocks on the door. I open the door, and we just slip into each other's arms, and we just stand there. We just stand there for like 2-3 minutes, just holding each other. And I mean, it's like being home again. And you wonder at that. You wonder why. You wonder why did you have to have a relationship before that? I love my kids. I would never, ever give them up. But why did I have to go through that and a divorce? And why did they, and why did she, and all of these things? I don't know. I don't know all the answers. I do know there's a lot of lessons. I do know there's a lot of growth. And for me, that's the best I know. And I think it's worth it. I think there's something you learn when it's so terrible and so difficult, right? I mean, another crazy thing, my wife bought a second car. Now, listen, she has 6 kids. So together we have 9. That's crazy. So when you said there's something you told me that was interesting about your relationship, I'm like, well, which thing, right? And remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I was like, you don't even know, right? You don't even know all this stuff. But there she is, like she bought this car and she had no idea why. And then she met me like, I don't know, like a month later.
Wow.
And we're both talking and like, that's your car. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
Wow.
Thanks for the car. But it was crazy. So yeah, we just stood there. It was so weird, like just so not weird, unreal, so unreal, but so familiar. And then we went out onto the deck. We both remember, I mean, this is like all the things you hear about true love. It really is, because the sky was bluer, the grass was greener. We were just floating. And we went out onto the deck on the swing out there, and we just sat there and talked for like hours. And then finally we're like, well, should we make some lunch? And oh my goodness, I'm only telling you even a fraction. Like I said, we could take a whole episode on it. So, but it was it's a fairy tale. It's
really, really beautiful. And I mean, you said, I found this interesting when you said, like, I don't know why we go through all these terrible things before. Obviously, you love your kids. You wouldn't change that for the world. But yet you had to wait this long before you met Debbie.
right.
And you think about like, oh, wouldn't it just be so much nicer if we could have just met like 10 years before or whatever,
Okay. On that note, and I want to hear what you have to say, but on that note, I always joke with her and I say, you know why this happened, didn't you? And she said, no. Now listen, my wife, she's like the hardest worker I've ever met. She's very like, get this done. And so I joke with her and I say, listen, we were up in heaven, or we were, before this life, you were like ready to come down. So like you came down 10 years too early. And so that's why all this stuff happened. Like if you would have come down on time and not, jump the gun. But anyway, I just tease her with that.
That's really cute. That's yeah, no, it's
You're
but I
talking
think
about
it's
like the
all
difficult
these,
things. And
yeah, I think it's all these things that we do in our life, right? Before we get to this like utopia, if you want to call it that, or it's this like feeling of home, being home. And it's, if we didn't have those past experiences, do you think you would have appreciated Debbie as much as you do today?
no way, no
Yeah.
way. And we were both different people. And I told her, and I think she agrees. In fact, I know she does. We were talking about it the other day. I said, if we had known each other, our younger selves, I said, we wouldn't have been ready for each other. We wouldn't. There's things I had to learn, and things that she had to learn that, we like to think, oh, where was that wonderful person? Well, they weren't around yet. They were still growing. They were still learning. So we know that. That's a reality. It's not a theory. You're absolutely right. Because in the rudimentary respect of like a young kid, right, who learns what's cold or what's hot, how do they have a reference point?
Yeah.
And beyond reference points, gaining a true understanding and using the word appreciation as, touching all of life and connecting with all things, and finding your place in the universe. You can't have it unless you have some sense of where you are and who you are.
Mm-hmm. That's true. It kind of goes back to that self-care, right?
Exactly.
Taking it back full circle.
It does. You gotta show up there first. I really, if I could have seen all this coming, and maybe I should have, I really have a lot to share with you about that and becoming. When I did get divorced, I left and went to Hawaii, where I had lived before. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand why I did that so much. I understand a lot more now. But part of it was, I think some people may be able to connect with the fact that when you grow up in a family or in surroundings, it's hard to change from that. And I grew up with my folks and 6 siblings. We had a large family, and not just that, but I had no other way to function than to totally get free of all of that influence, to know that I had a choice.
It goes back to that time of, you just need time to think and be quiet in your brain a little bit, like, right?
Yeah.
Go back to your bedroom routine for you to just kind of like be present and be focused in your own mind.
Same principle. Exactly.
Yeah. That's
Got to do that.
And
May
it's a little
sound
bit
weird.
easier to do it during your bedroom time instead of going to Hawaii. I mean, Hawaii is nice, don't get me wrong, but
No, yeah, you're right. I think you make a great point. I mean, now I understand it. And I wonder for myself, well, what's the purpose of my life? Why would I have to do that? Well, think of how strongly I can share with other people now and say, not only is it okay for you to feel like you have to escape everyone and everything to know you have a choice and that you matter and what you choose is important and all of that, but I mean, it's just absolutely true and real, and you can do it right now. Right now, you can do it any moment of the day, and just take the pressure off. And I mean, the way we learn to live life, we're not surrounded by experts. So of course we all have to do some reprogramming, or just making some new choices, just changing the way we understand how things work.
yeah,
And finding what works better. Because if you waste your life trying to choose all the best things, right?
Yeah.
You're going to forget that it's okay to make mistakes. You're going to forget that it's okay to not choose the best thing. That is the route to knowing what is the best. Not,
Exactly.
so you shouldn't take your eye off of that, be like, well, I'll just do all the mediocre things. That's not what I'm saying at all. But
Well, it goes back to also to that yin and yang, right? That push and pull you need in life. You need to have those kind of crazy decisions. We could even go back to our pre-conversation before we talked about piercings, right? And things that you did at 17.
yeah,
Those
right?
decisions, you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, right.
Making
Like,
these decisions. But you make those decisions at 17 or whenever it is, or you in your life. And but when you overcome those hurdles, right? Piercing is not a hurdle. You guys just want to clarify that. But when you overcome those hurdles, like maybe a bad decision or a more poor decision that you normally make in your life, overcoming them and to make better decisions. But yes, if I agree with you, if you can continue just making good decisions in your life, you're not growing. And it is just living, right? It's just living your life instead of making these decisions based upon like, okay, this is the best thing, this is the most safe thing, living in your box. Sometimes it's nice to just live out of your box.
yeah. So I hope it's okay to ask this question, because
Ask
I mean,
away.
you asked me on, right? You would like to know but I'm so curious what really puts relationships at the center of at least this podcast universe. What did that for you? What is that thing?
I think relationships are, this is so funny. Who's interviewing who here?
I just told you, I said, I hope it's okay, but I am just
It's totally
curious.
fine, Greg. It's
I'm
totally
just
curious.
curious.
I'm in. But no, it's I love relationships. I think relationships are fascinating. And I think whether they're business relationships, they're romantic, any type of relationships, we all have them. We all, as humans, need them. We crave them. And we really need them to survive. I mean, and to make us feel more whole. I have been very blessed with seeing positive relationships, which has helped me have more positive relationships in the world. And I've come across really negative relationships, and I just see how it can destroy somebody's health. It can destroy somebody's well-being, those negative relationships. But we do end up hearing a lot about the negative relationships, right? Because it's so easy to talk about the gossip, like, oh, can you believe this, that this person was like that? And I'm so angry about this. And that's the things that you really end up talking about. And I feel like if we can focus more on those positive relationships and learn from them, we can continue to have more positive relationships together and grow as a person and have more love and light in this world, because I think it's really important to have more of that. It feeds everybody, right? Like, and everybody's like happier and life's just better when
Right.
people like,
Yeah.
we're having a better day. Everything goes so much more, like so much smoother.
I love that.
But yeah,
I love that so much. I
that was,
wonder if it's okay. My we struggled a
mhm.
lot despite our commitment to one another,
Yeah.
and that's all natural and normal. But we were to a point where I said to her, I was like, we're in trouble. We need something, and we had both done like counseling before, personal counseling and couples counseling, and we were both like, that's not the route. Like, I don't know. We didn't have really great success with that. But thankfully someone invited us to this event, some folks who I think know a lot about people and relationships. And so I guess I'm just going to say this because we shared this with a new friend of ours. In fact, he was a salesman that came to our house,
Wow.
and we ended up, he came in. I won't tell you exactly what he was selling us, just because I want to protect, his his privacy, but he came in
Wait,
and he's
this year or last year?
this a couple weeks ago.
This is a thing?
This is the thing.
Did
Well,
you know we're in
this
a
is,
global pandemic? And I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
yeah, no, well, it was
Okay.
something, I'll tell you this, it was something specifically for our house. So he had to come to our house, right? To
Okay.
measure,
Okay.
to
Oh,
look, and
oh, oh.
so it's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
yeah,
I thought he was like a door-to-door salesman. I'm like, people are
no,
doing that right now in a
we
pandemic? Okay.
we set up an appointment. He came over and he
Okay.
just started talking. Just
Yeah.
started to, and
Mhm.
um him and his wife both had previous marriages, and we just it got really real, and so we just started sharing with him some things that made a big difference. So I just thought, that people who are interested in relationships are listening to this, boy, I've got to share the little bit that I learned that really just helped turn things for us.
Please.
So I would say that you find yourself in the extremes, right? You find yourselves arguing or angry or just upset with one another. Maybe you're not arguing. Maybe one of you is such a strong type, you won't even argue. You just go away and be angry. I don't know what it is. But the thing you need to do, in my opinion, and maybe that's pretty strong, but I really believe in this, is this is a need. And maybe you can ask yourself, but the need that you have in that moment is to reconnect with that person that you love. And whether it's like, I'm basing this on a very like intimate, like romantic type commitment relationship, but you could do this with any relationship. You really can. And I'm not saying necessarily I could go into that later, but so let's just talk to the relation that this, like, your spouse or your life partner or whatever who you're trying to connect with, you have to let go of everything for a moment and remember how much you love this person. You have to let go of talking. Why? Because you have programs for talking.
Mm-hmm.
They're already in place. And despite your best efforts, that's why you're even still listening to what I'm saying right now, right? So let go of talking. Well, what in the heck do we do, Greg? You have to come together physically somehow. And that could look like holding hands. That could look like, clasping fingers, if that's all you can do, I mean, you're really upset with each other, right? Like, it's going to be hard to reach out and be like,
Yeah.
It's something that sometimes you get easier, but then you move together. You move. So if you're holding hands, just swing your arms back and forth. The way it was taught to us was now, by the way, this isn't dancing, right? This isn't dancing the way it was taught to us. These people are amazing. I didn't get necessarily their permission to share it. So, but their names are Kirk and Kim Duncan, and they do amazing work. I'm not sure what they're doing today, if they still have this type of program, but they taught us about what they call the sway. It's where you get together, and you just hold each other and you just rock back and forth. Because dancing can trigger a lot of people. I'm not a dancer.
So this is like if you're fighting, or if you're in a low, or if
this is if you are coming apart for any reason. You're right. That's the basic problem you have. How do we live together? How do we love together? Well, you start with the together part, essentially. And so it was taught to us that way, right? You hold each other. I think that's a wonderful place to go. But like I told you before, I want you to start with the simple. If you can grasp pinkies, then you can hold hands. And if you can hold hands, then you can hold each other. And then you just move with each other. Just a gentle movement.
Mm-hmm.
And you make that commitment that you're going to do it when those times come, right? Yeah. And so, like I said, they called it this way. You could call it connect. We need to connect. Call it whatever you want. And they had us like put music on, like obviously songs that you like, right? And just sway. And you don't get to talk. That is the key until you have some connection. but you also have that time when you get to pull away. Meaning, let's say you're angry, upset, you're not connected, and one of you is maybe better at it than I am. My wife will tell you, I'm the one that typically, it's easier for me to turn around and be like, hey, we got to sway, right? Hey, we got to connect. She knows that. And, I don't give her a hard time, but one of you may be better at the other. But if you say we got to connect, then you have to have some sort of commitment beforehand. How many minutes do you get to stew? How many minutes do you get to be angry without that connection? So you have to connect. And so if you're going to do this, you make the commitment when you're strong. Be like, hey, let's learn to connect. And you connect and you let those minutes, happen. And something's gonna click there because you love each other. You loved each other once. You don't know how to love each other in the moment. We'll go back to the love first and then reapproach the moment. That's the basic idea.
It makes a lot of sense.
I don't know if I presented that very clearly, but
no, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we all need physical touch. And it's one of the love languages, right? And maybe it's not everybody's love language, but it is a part of human beings. Everybody needs that human connection, that touch.
Everybody needs the connection.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Totally. Oh my gosh, Greg, this is so much fun chatting with you. This is so great. This is so great. I never know where our conversations are going to go. And I just am so grateful that this one went where it went because it was just such a wonderful time talking. So thank you so much for being on here. But before we go, I would love everybody to know where they can connect with you. Obviously not hugging you or physically touching you, but
I am a hugger, but yes, that probably wouldn't necessarily straight out of the gate hug. Yeah. Well, you mentioned COVID.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a podcast as well. They could catch me on the podcast. It's called Positive Morning Voice. And it's a daily, almost daily. It's an almost daily podcast and they're very short and just help you connect, give you a great message to listen to feed you in the morning. That's one of the things that I do. And then I hang out on Instagram a lot. So you can find me and I just barely changed it. So I'm trying to remember what it is. I mean, I think it's Gregory.Steed. So Instagram @Gregory.Steed. You can find me there. So those are great ways to connect.
I'll definitely put in the show notes to make sure everybody can connect with you.
Yeah, right.
The right Instagram account.
And they can air hug me. They can air hug me anytime, right? I'll feel it. I'll send you one back.
This is so fabulous.